Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi friends, and welcome to a very special video today. So, a couple of things. This video is going to be a deep dive on Julia Wolf, the author who wrote my favorite book in 2023. I know that a lot of you have read this already or you're planning to because it's one of my favorites. And within my my video recommendation form, I have gotten a huge influx of people asking for more about Julia Wolf, as well as, books that maybe have to do with certain kinks or certain tropes that are involved in those. I do want to share that I do have some single mother romances videos already, as well as ones where there's a pregnancy included, and that does have some that are not his baby and stuff like that. Maybe I'll make another one of those videos eventually, but I don't like to space those all too close together because I won't have any new recommendations for it. You'll have to go check that out. But I am working on some that involve a specific kink that is within P.S. You're Intolerable, which I won't spoil right now in case you haven't read it. But one of the things that I've done in the past is I have made, I think, 5 to 7 videos that are author deep dives. I know I've done one for, I did Sophie Lark, that's my most popular one. I've done Juliet Cross, I've done T.L. Swan, I've done Pam Godwin, Nikki Sloan. So I've done a few of those. I don't know if they have their own playlist, but I'll link 1 or 2 of them up there if you want to check it out. And I do get lots of requests for me to do these deep dives. So just a little bit of history on it. When I first started doing these videos, I think I did like Pam Godwin's and like Nikki Sloan. And T.L. Swan. I had read like 90% of those authors' backlists, or at least some books in every series that they have written, so that I could at least speak to that a little bit. And there are just so many authors that I haven't read that many of their backlists because it's extensive. So finding an author that I can do this with is kind of difficult, and also one that I want to do it with, because when I recommend these books, I want to have like good things to say. And that's hard. So then I like loosened it a little bit more as we went. And with Julia Wolf, I have read all of her J. Wolf titles, which we'll get into the difference in her pen names, but I've only really read the Harder They Fall series, the series that has P.S. You're Intolerable in it, and 2 of her other backlist titles. So I didn't feel like this was one I should make. However, I know a lot of people are hungry for more of her books right now because people are reading the Harder They Fall series or they're trying the others. I also have people asking me, should I read the first 2 books in the Harder They Fall series first? And I mean, for me, P.S. You're Intolerable is my favorite one, and you don't have to read it with the other one, so I'm pushing everyone towards that. But I thought it would be fun to go back through her backlist and, kind of show them to you, tell you what tropes are involved, a bit more about her and everything, so that you can dive into this author's backlist yourself. I think that will be a great thing for you to do and support a small author. From what I can tell, Julia Wolf only started publishing in about 2018 is what I'm seeing. So there isn't a huge backlist for her, but like a lot of indie authors, she has really pumped out the books since that time. And TikTok is where I first caught a hold of her. And I had one of you recommend one of her books to me. Now, I don't remember who it was at this point because it's been 3 years at this point. But, I'm always looking for books that remind me of Carter Mahoney. We know it from Untouchable. And one of her books was recommended to me, which was called Start a Fire. Obviously, we'll get to it in this. And it had a high school bully romance situation where the hero reminded some people of Carter with some of the dubious consent things and the bullying aspects of it. And I happened to agree when I read it. And when people ask me for books that are like Untouchable, Start a Fire is within the like 3 books that I can recommend people to read that is like Untouchable. Now, nothing is fully like Untouchable. That book is unique unto its own, but Start a Fire comes kind of close for me. And after reading Start a Fire, it was the only one out under the J. Wolf pen name so far. She had just started writing this new adult series. And the arc for Through the Ashes, I think is the next one, was available, and I messaged her. It's one of the few authors that I have, but because she is a smaller author, I had the balls to be like, can I get on your ARC team? I'm happy to apply for it or whatever you need, but can I please, I need to know more about the series. And I ended up getting on her ARC team, and her ARC team has both for J. Wolf and for the Julia Wolf titles. And in the beginning, I only did sign up for the J. Wolf titles until one of the arcs came around for a book, which we'll of course get to that one as well, that had some tropes that I'm obsessed with. So I was like, well, hey, I'll sign up for that one too. And that kind of led me into her adult titles as well. And I've now been reading both of them. So that's the Jenn backstory with these. I'm going to read her little like blurb on her website, and then we're going to start going through her books. The way that I do these deep dives, I'm not necessarily going to go deep on all of the books. A lot of them I haven't read. I'm just here kind of presenting them to you. I'm not necessarily giving you any more information than you could find just by going on Goodreads, but I'm putting it all in one place so that we can have it all here. I'll have links to most of the books all down below if you want to go right to them. I'll have links to her website, her Etsy. You can buy signed books from her store, and I'll put all of her socials. So this will be just like a fan video for Julia Wolf, so that, you know, people can find more about her. So let's get started with these. But we're gonna go chronologically through her backlist. And so those older titles that I haven't read, I will read you the blurb, or not the blurb, I'll read you the tropes and what it's about. So we'll go kind of quickly through those ones. And then once we get to the ones I have read, I'll obviously have my opinions and more to say about it. So that part will probably be a bit more heavily spoken of. So on Julia Wolf's website, it says this: Julia Wolf writes sexy rockers, broken bad boys, snarky heroines, and badass women. She's a firm believer in happily ever after, no matter how rocky the road is to get there. She doesn't believe in guilty pleasures, only pleasure. Reading about a plus-size woman who gets absolutely railed by a rock star is pleasure. Reading about a damaged college student whose flaws are valued and loved by the grumpy guy next door is pleasure. That's Lachlan right there. Reading about love in a small town or big city or on a tour bus is pleasure. Reading romance is pleasure. Julia lives in Maryland with her husband and 3 crazy, beautiful children. When she's not writing romance, she's reading it, and some of her favorite things are goats, books, coffee, and Target, in no particular order. So that's a little bit about Julia Wolf. Yeah, so there we go. So I will be looking down at my notes for a good portion of this because I made an extensive list of notes for this. This is also why when people ask me for these deep dives, I really have to be in the mood to make one. Please, you are so welcome to suggest any videos you want. I don't want this to be a deterrent at all. You know, if I see an author like mentioned more and more and more times, I will be more inclined to like think about it. But these videos take me a long time to do, and I have to feel the inspiration to do it. So the author of my favorite book in 2023, I was inspired to do it, right? Okay, so the way we're going to go through this, like I said, we're going to start with her oldest series and work our way forward. Because I haven't read these, to the best of my ability, I'll discuss how the series connect, but I might not know because I haven't read them. So if you are one of the people who have read these books by her, please feel free to shout out which ones are your favorite, which ones that I'm listing that you think people might like. But because all I'm going to be able to share is who the characters are and the tropes for those ones. Okay, enough further ado. We're almost 10 minutes in. Let's get to these. So the first series that she released, we're going to go through the series and then the standalones. And this is all under the Julia Wolf title. We're going to go through all the Julia Wolfs, and then we'll discuss the new adult titles. There was the Sublime Series. Now, this series had a rename. So currently, the books are all called like... they have different names, but I'll say what the original name was. So the first one was One Day Guy, and this used to be called Cut Short. This one is about Rachel and Joe, and this one is an ex-rock star turned a music teacher, and this is a slow burn second chance romance. So that one had me intrigued right away. He's now a music teacher. How cool is that? Then there was a novella called Cutting In, and this is about Anna and Will, and they are childhood friends to lovers. There is The Very Worst Guy. This one used to be called Cut Loose. This is about Franny and James, and this one is a second chance, a broody hero, and a dancer heroine. It also, I think, said about this one that he's like very introverted and more reclusive. Want You Bad, which used to be called Cut Free. And this is Eliza and Charlie, and this one is a Friends to Lovers. Then there is Fixer Up, which used to be called Pixie Cut, and this one seems so unique. This one is Lauren and Avi, and now he used to be a Marine, so he's a veteran, and he's currently a male hairstylist because his family runs hair salons, and he's a hairstylist, which I think is so cool. A straight hairstylist. We don't usually see that. I know that it's a, stereotype to say, but it's true. Come on. Like, how many have you read that? Who's also an ex-Marine? Like, I want to try this one. Then to round off that series, there is a novella that was a Hanukkah novella called 8 Cozy Nights. So this is one I actually have on my Kindle because I got it during the holiday season, but I've never gotten around to it. And this one is about Larissa and Yo, and I do believe that they're neighbors and that Hanukkah has something to do with it. So that was the first series. Then there is Blue is the Color, and I actually own 2 of these ones that I've gotten from used situations. One of them is even signed. So Blue is the Color. These have new covers now, but the ones I found for discount have the old covers. So Blue is the Color. The first one is called Times Like These. So this was the cover that I have. It has a heroine on the back. And this one is about Nick and Dahlia. And this Blue is the Color is a band. So the whole series is about the different band members. So this one is Nick and Dahlia, and it is enemies to lovers, and it's a rock star romance, as you can guess. So, yeah, she's a good girl gone bad type thing. But yeah, this one's cute. So I have this one. Is this the one that's signed? Yeah, I got this one from one of those damaged sales, and I think it was literally damaged because of that. So I got it for a deal, and it was even signed. So that worked out well for me. Next, this one I also got in from a different site that was damaged because there was a like sticky residue on this one. So I got this one for like $5 instead. And this one is Watch Me Unravel. So this one is David and Sylvia, and it's a second chance romance. From what I can tell in her adult novels, Julia Wolf does have quite a few second chance romances, which is interesting to see. Then there was Such Great Heights, and this one is Malka and Jasper, and this one is a forbidden friends to lovers, it says. And again, all of these ones are Rockstar, even though I'm not saying that because the series is the Rockstar series. The final one in this one was Under the Bridge, and this one is Ian and Valentina, and this one is friends to lovers, neighbors, and a rock star. And I believe this one says that they're like neighbors in an apartment, and he will like come out on his balcony and play his guitar, and that's how she first like meets him. So that sounds cute. Then there was a spin-off duet from Blue is the Color, and this one is about Tally and Jude. And so yeah, this one is a duet. There's Never Lasting and Never Again. I believe you can buy this in one bind up. And this one is an angsty rock star romance. And I think that within the story, it'll involve like a second chance maybe, since it's a duet. I don't know. It sounds like it might be one of the ones that might be tough for me because it might have like, a breakup in there or a time jump. This is all speculation. If you've read them, please let me know. All right, then we have the Unrequited series. And this one, I think this one then is also part of a band, but I didn't really see with it. But this one is Mauve. It might be Maeve, but it looks like Mauve, and Santiago. This one has a curvy heroine, and it's a rock star second chance. Then this next one is another one I really want to read. There's Misconception, and this one is Michaela and Mo, and it's interracial. The woman is older by like 8 years. It's a Vegas wedding and a surprise baby. So those are all a lot of things that Jen likes. So this one is going to the top of my list for sure. I believe now too that I was going to mention this before. The Blue is the Color series and Unrequited series forward, they all have audiobooks. So if you'd like to listen, you can. I know that Blue is the Color series is on Anyplay because I haven't read those yet, but I have them saved in my library. And then the last one in the Unrequited series is Dissonance. This one is Alex and Yale. They're Yale. I don't know how to pronounce this. Apologize. It's a rock star romance, frenemies to lovers, fake relationship, and brother's best friend. So there's a lot of different things within that one. All right, then we come up to a series that I have a few of these ones, and I've kept my eye out for these ones. So there's Falling in Reverse. This is one I can't believe I still haven't read. I do have this one on my Kindle. It was free in one of the sales. And looking it up again, I was like, damn, why haven't I read this one yet? So this one is Ronan and Iris, and this is a bodyguard and a female rock star. Iris is also kind of like the lead of the band because Seasons Change is the band name in this one. Then there is Stone Cold Notes, another one that I need to read this. This is Callum and Ren, and this is a pen pal, a single mom, and they've been pen pals for quite a bit, and our hero is a virgin in this one. Love a virgin hero, especially one who's a rock star. Okay, this is one I know I got in a damage sale because it was curved up, also a signed one. It has a little bit of a bend back here too. But this one is Faded in Bloom. And this one is Adam and Addie. I think it's Adelaide and Adam. And they are neighbors and friends to lovers. This one might be the one where he's on his guitar on the balcony. Now I'm confused because there's another neighbor one. But there's this one. I haven't read this one. However, the last one in the series is that MM one that I talked about. Or not MM one. The adult one that got me to try her adult titles. Because when I heard what the tropes were, I was like, well, since she's offering an arc to me, I should get it. So this is Where Waves Break. And this one is the final book in the Seasons Change. And this one is Diego and June. And now Diego is actually coming back to be with the band for like a limited run. And he happens to have a little boy. And he needs someone to watch his son during the tour. Now, one of the other band members already has a kid, and I believe it's her sister is June, much younger sister, has been watching that kid. So she offers to also watch Diego's son at the same time during the tour. So she's had a little bit of experience watching his kids. So when he ends up needing a nanny in his everyday life, and she's looking for a change in hers, she agrees to be his live-in nanny for a period of time. Because when he's not being a rock star, remember this was just a quick run that he was with them, he is a mechanic and he's a single dad. And yeah, so June moves in, and this is also Friend's little sister because it's Iris's little sister. And they also end up in a like light BDSM relationship, because they end up having a scenario where he like orders her to do something one day and she gets like really wet by it. So it's a bit of a like crazy thing how it starts, but I mean, I really liked it. The third act of this one was a bit hard for me, but it usually is. It won't be as hard for everyone else. But this is a nanny single dad romance. Y'all, it's right up your alley for it. It's age gap. It's spicy. And if you don't love rock star romance, he's really only a rock star for a little bit in this one. Most of the time, he's a mechanic who stays at home. So it's got all the vibes you need. It really does. All right. So that was the wrap up of those. So then the next adult series that she started was the Harder They Fall series. So these weren't the next ones I read because we're already kind of overlapping with the J. Wolf titles, but like I said, I'm going to do all the Julia Wolf and then we'll do the J. Wolf ones. So the next adult series she wrote was, or is currently writing, is Harder They Fall. Now the first book in this one was Dear Grumpy Boss. Now I wasn't sure that I wanted to start this series, but I was very excited because it's so different from everything else she wrote, because this is a billionaire and most of all of them are office romances, and I love those. So, I mean, I liked Where Waves Break good enough, and I was like, I'll start this series too. So, this first one, Dear Grumpy Boss, is Weston and Elise, and this is a brother's best friend. So, in the beginning of this one, so Elise is Elliot's sister, okay? We'll get around to Elliot soon. And she has just had her heart absolutely broken by her boyfriend. And so her brother, he is a billionaire, and he actually was kind of her guardian when she was young too. So he's like a brother slash like guardian figure to her, loves her very much. And he moves her to his town and helps her get a job with his friend. So she gets a job being, I don't know if she's his secretary, if she just works there. I actually don't remember at this point. But she starts working for Weston. And like all the books in the series, there ends up being some emails back and forth, and she starts to like get a peek at his soft side through these emails. And so it eventually becomes kind of a forbidden romance, a brother's best friend romance. She is also a curvy heroine. Julia Wolf writes a lot of those, by the way. It's very like own representation of her. And I love how she writes plus size heroines so much. But Weston and Elise were a lovely, lovely couple. So if maybe you've already read P.S. You're Intolerable, or you are someone who wants to start at the beginning, there is nothing wrong with this one at all. Weston has a little bit of like commitment issues, and a heroine coming from a heroine coming from a man who had already like destroyed her. She's not going to have a ton of patience for someone who like can't make up their mind. So just think of that. Like you can maybe see where the third act was coming from with there, which like didn't work as perfectly for me as I wanted to, but we persisted, and I'm so glad that I did, because then there was Sincerely Your Inconvenient Wife, which is my current second favorite in the series and was absolutely a 5-star read. I loved this one. This is Luca and Cersa. Okay, now we're going to come back around to Cersa. I mean, we are, it's her book. But Cersa is the little sister of one of my heart's true loves, which is Lachlan. But we'll discuss him when we do the J. Wolf titles. So what becomes clear if you've read like all of her books is that this is a crossover series with her new adult. I keep wanting to say YA. It is not YA. With her new adult books. These are all taking place in the same world and everything. And this series takes place about 10 years after that series, even though that series was like coming out at this like overlapping and stuff. So it's weird, but you get it when you read them. So Cersa, she's a younger sister of Lachlan, and in Sweet Like Poison, when we get to it, she's only a teenager in that one, but in this one it's like 10 years later, and she's a bit of like a flighty girl. She can be flighty sometimes, but she's Elise's friend. And there's this party that she goes to. Is she already Elise's friend? See, now I'm already messing stuff up. But either way, at the beginning of this, Cersa goes to a party with a friend who's not Elise, but with another friend. She goes to a party, and this person like kind of ditches her already. And Cersa ends up in a room with a guy. She's in his bedroom, but she'd went in there to kind of like hide from it. And they end up like making out and like getting each other off on the couch. And then the party breaks up and she has to leave. And then she ends up running into him again, and through some certain situations, he needs a wife because his family doesn't want to leave the business to him. He's actually in the car business, I think. Yeah, Rossi Motors. And he needs a wife to prove to his family that he's like stable. It's one of those. And so she agrees to be his wife for only 2 years, which I'm like, 2 years, that's a good amount of time, but only 2 years. Now, because they know they're extremely sexually attracted to each other, they're like, well, we're not going to be celibate the whole time. So we'll fuck each other, but there's not going to be any feelings. We're fake married. There's not going to be any feelings. But, so when they fuck each other, they don't do it at home. They have like he has like a side apartment that is where the fucking happens. There's no fucking at home because that's a no sex zone. Who knows the things people come up with their head? I don't know. It's crazy, but that ends up happening. There's also what, really kept my attention with this is that it's one of those where like they have a sex arrangement, but it's a slow burn to the love part of it. And the heroine's a bit of the flighty one because Luca, he has an example of great family. Like his family wants him to be married to prove he's settled down because they have great marriages and stuff. So it's not them doing it to like punish him. They want him to settle down type of thing, So yeah. But there is a part of this where Cersa has to go home to visit her family, which is Lachlan and his wife and children. And so Luca goes to the farm with her to meet her family, which is big brother Lachlan, who's gonna scare some sense into him, right? So anyway, I really did love this one. I gave it 5 stars when I read it, because the third act, how it's handled, because she's the one who has some of the commitment issues with it, and she doesn't quite want to be like tied down, but it's like, girl, you're like married to a billionaire. It's not like you guys have to stay in the same place all the time. So there's some movement, but I really liked this one. I was so happy that I did, and I was really hooked for the next book, which I knew was going to be Elliot. So what do we have here? I have 2 copies of this because I got myself 2 of these. This one I of course bought because duh, but then I did order the alternate cover because I loved it. Look at the cute little booties, and it has some of the notes on the front, and then I ordered a signed copy because I had to have it. So, P.S. You're Intolerable, my favorite book of 2023. I have talked about it in all of the things, but now we have Elliot, who's the 3rd friend in the billionaire trio. I haven't mentioned that at all, but like they meet up and like work at the gym together weekly and every day, and they have these like weekly brunches, which slowly their like partners are getting added to and everything. But Elliot ends up with a new assistant named Catherine. Catherine happens to be a newly pregnant woman. And so he like doesn't know that she's pregnant at the start of this. And pretty soon she ends up being like kind of completely alone because her baby daddy is a complete douche canoe and leaves her abandoned and alone and goes back to Australia. And now has no one. She's all alone. And she slowly makes herself indispensable to Elliot. And by the time she needs to go on maternity leave, he is lost without her. He doesn't know how he let this woman become so ingrained in his life, but now he is just completely lost without her and is kind of hopeless. It's kind of adorable. And when he finally sees her again and meets her new baby, Joey, he falls head over heels for them. He already had some feelings that he was repressing for Catherine because he would never want to make her feel awkward at work. He would never, he also doesn't want to get into a sexual harassment situation. So he's very particular about the women that he hires to work for him. But when he sees the difficult situation that Catherine is living in, he asks her to move in with him. And so then this becomes kind of a roommate romance. And we slowly watch Elliot just lose his mind for Catherine and go about one of the most beautiful, like, wooing campaigns that I've read in ages. There's no third act drama in this. There's no other woman, other man drama in this. It's just a slow burn, one woman learning to let someone care for her. She's a plus size heroine. She's a new mom. She doesn't know how to do any of this. And there's Elliot who's there to help however he can. And it's perfect, y'all. It's perfect. So that's the pinnacle of how I feel about Julia Wolf. Although I do have another 6-star one to talk about. We'll get to it. But this is my favorite book of 2023. So there you go. And now that I've talked to you about that series, you can see you can just read P.S. You're Intolerable. But I do think that if you like that, you'll like the other 2 because, yeah, like Elliot is Elise's brother, so you'll see them in that one. Maybe you'll want to read them. Now, there is still at least 1 book to come. I'm pretty sure it's just 1 more, but sometimes Julia surprises me with more books that I know are coming. But Not So Truly Yours is slated to come June of this year, and this is going to be Miles' romance. When you read this, you'll know who Miles is, and it's supposed to be a fake dating one. So that's the notes that we have. Now, there are currently 2 standalones from her. And so I have actually read both of these standalones. So, well, no, wait, I guess I haven't. I haven't fully read Built to Fall. So there is Built to Fall, which previously had a different cover. This one came out during like 2021 because I remember the original cover was really hot. But she bought a new cover. She got Wander on the cover. Who doesn't want Wander on the cover? So this was one I also ordered a signed copy of. Now, I haven't read the whole thing. This was one that I did actually have trouble with this when I tried to read it, because this was one I tried to read after I read the first book of hers, but I just didn't like connect with this hero. He's supposed to be a bad boy. He's supposed to be a bit of a douche. but it just wasn't quite working. But I want to try it again someday, especially now that I have a physical copy of it. But either way, I bought a copy because it's Wander, and I love having him on the cover of my book. But yeah, this one is Dominic and Claire, and this is a rock star, age gap, curvy heroine, and she becomes kind of his like handler in a way, because he always is sleeping with his assistants, and then they quit when it doesn't work out, and so they hire someone who is supposed to be able to resist him, because there's a reason why they think that, but I won't spoil it. And you know, I don't think the resisting is going to work too well, but this is a pretty good one. A lot of people love this. This was a lot of people's like intro to Julia Wolf, because kind of like the man who was the model on the first edition, he had, I think, like a TikTok or an Instagram, and she like pictured him as like he was the inspiration for that book. But Wander works too, y'all. Wander works too. And then the other standalone is Rocked. This was formerly like a part of one of those, like, not an anthology book, but like an anthology series where all the authors put in books for it. I think this was like a Book Boyfriend one or something. I don't know. I didn't do that. But when it got re-released with its own cover, I got a copy of that as being part of her ARC team. So this one is called Rocked. This is another surprise rockstar romance. But this one is about Kat and Devin. And so he moves to this small town to kind of get rejuvenated, hopefully get his inspiration back. He needs to write some new songs and just kind of get his crap together. And his new neighbor, her name is Kat. She's actually a paramedic, and she has a daughter. I can't remember how old she is, but she has a sweet daughter, and they're next door neighbors. And yeah, they become good friends. But you know, he's only going to be in town for a short time. So it's like, are we having a summer fling? Like, what's going on here? But I thought this was very heartwarming and sweet, if a little predictable, but it was really great. And it's a standalone one, so you don't got to worry about committing to too much. Okay, so now we've made it through all of the Julia Wolf titles. Now we're going to talk about her J. Wolf titles, of which I have read every single one, because I first started reading her, as I've shared, when the first one was released. So we're going to go through these ones here. So these are both high school and college, like dark romances, mostly kind of like bully ones. So the first series is called The Savage Crew. And this one is about a like public high school. So, and I'll explain why that needs to be specified as we go along. But this one is at like a public school. So the first book is The Start a Fire. And this is the one that people recommended to me as reminding them of Carter Mahoney. So this was the original cover. So I have a copy of that one. This one is Start a Fire. But it does now have this cover. And then I was able to get a copy of the Baddies book box cover, which if you go to Mercari, you might be able to find one for cheap as well, because not everyone knows about Julia Wolf, so get it while you can. But there was this cover, and it also has this underneath, which this is amazing material it's made out of. The end pages look like this. It has a reversible cover that has quotes for it like this. I believe the heroine spray paints. Is it her who does? I think it's her. So that's where all that color is coming from. Or a skateboard. There's a skateboard too. So that's the pretty cover I got. But Start a Fire is about Sebastian and Grace. And Sebastian has been like away from this school for a couple years. And now she's back, and she doesn't really care about being popular anymore. It didn't really work well for her that last time. And Sebastian just narrows in on her when he's back, because he has a bit of a grudge against her. He's like angry for how things went and that he never heard from her again. And he wants to make her life miserable, but really he just wants her to be his. So yeah, this is a dark high school bully romance, definitely a morally gray hero. There is dubious consent. You know, there's one really hot situation in here that's dubious consent / he pushes you. So this series is like, to me, a totally different track. That's why it's under the J. Wolf. You know, for the most part in her Julia Wolf titles, there are very few trigger warnings. You still should check those if you need them, but they mostly deal with some mental health stuff, some drugs and alcohol, as you might expect with Rockstars. Within these books, we're dealing more with like the dark romance stuff. Like, those are more contemporary romance. These are dark new adult romances, okay? So yeah, you're going to run into, you know, possible SA, dubious consent, difficult home lives, bullying, sexual assault. Like, you're going to run into that in these. So be prepared. If you read Elliot, who is like the king of consent, the swooniest man ever, Sebastian ain't at that level, okay? We ain't there. So yeah, but I devoured this one. I loved it so much. And then I was hooked on Julia Wolf. So then, as I said, I became a part of her ARC team and I read all the rest. Now, some weren't as great for me as some others, but we then had some really fantastic ones. So let's go through these Julia Wolf titles together. So next up, there was Through the Ashes, and this was Asher and Bex. There aren't really too many tropes to go with this one, except for the dark bully romance. I don't even remember this one too well, except I know that one of the reasons he's seen as a bully is that, oh no, that's the next one, I think, yeah. But yeah, things with Asher and Bex were very difficult, and that's one that I didn't love quite as much. Then there was Burn It Down, and this one is Gabe and Penelope. Now, Penelope is someone I really love because she is connected with my favorite heroine from Julia Wolf, like my favorite. But Gabe and Penelope, this is a curvy heroine, and I believe they almost got together when they were like 14. And it didn't work out, it got spoiled, and that just soured everything. And now it's 4 years later, and Gabe is ready to like fix things and get with her. So yeah, curvy heroine, fucked up life, high school bully romance, there you go. All right, after Savage Crew, then we moved into Savage U. And yeah, this one is the college in the world, and it is with like the same friend group. And specifically with the crossover is Elena, is that, and she's a bit of an antagonist in the Savage Crew series, so I never thought that I would love her as much as I did. Like, I don't even fully remember her from that series. When I do a reread, I need to dive more into it, but yeah. So the first one was Soft Like Thunder. This one, did I get these ones signed? I can't remember. Oh, I got book plates for these ones. That was cool. So this one is Theo and Helen. So this is Rich Guy, Poor Girl. And Helen has a younger sister she's trying to take care of and look after. And that leads her to get involved in a bit of drug selling to make some money to take care of her sister and to keep her from being in like the foster care system and stuff like that. So this heroine gets herself into some serious situations. Now Theo, who becomes very possessive and like wants her, he sees the thing she's starting to get involved in and he is worried about her, but it's like she doesn't know what else she can do. So this one is enemies to lovers and still a very possessive hero, though I see him as a little bit softer than some of, well, not all of them, but he's a little bit softer than like some of the guys from Savage Crew were. Then there's Bright Like Midnight, which is so unique, for real. Like, this one is still taking place out of college. This is Amir and Zadie. Now, Zadie is besties with Elena and Helen. She's actually kind of like the glue between some of them because she's just... yeah, she's just so, like, sweet. People can't help but love her. But she does have a secret urge for, like, some bad boys. And she ends up going on, like, I think it's only the first or second date. I can't remember. But it isn't many in with this, like, total tool. Like, this total tool. And they go to a party. And he's involved with Amir's, like, brother. Or maybe even with him. And is involved in, like, selling drugs. And he owes big, like he owes this guy big time. And Zadie, because again, she has a bit of a wild side that not many people know about, she kind of like offers herself in a way to pay the guy's like debt. And she has seen Amir before. There's a situation where she's interacted with him before that wasn't great, but it stoked something in her. So she's a bit looking for trouble. And so she agrees to pay this guy's debt by kind of being like a house slave to Amir. Yes, they are in college and she's still able to go to classes, but she's going to like pay off this debt to him by cooking meals for them and cleaning at their house. Nothing sexual, like there actually isn't any like dubious consent that he's going to take payment that way. but Zadie kind of wishes he would. Like, that's the kind of scenario we're in with this. So this was crazy. I love this. You know, this also had some good diversity in it, which I liked. But yeah, so this is kind of a captor-captive. There is some, like, gang situations in here to be aware of. I mean, Amir's brother is a complete douchebag and it's awful. But Zadie and him were such a surprise. Like, this book, I loved it. I loved it so much. So highly recommend. All right, here we are again. What is it about the third book in series, man? Like, what is it? Julia Wolf hit me so hard with the third book, because here we have the third book in Savage You, and it's Sweet Like Poison. And now we have Elena, who, as I've said, we've seen at this point, if you're reading through the series, you've seen her in different situations, and she's seen as a bit of a bitch, kind of an ice queen. Nothing can touch her. She's got a hard outer shell. And yeah, like, if you're on her good side, she loves you. And if it's not, she will cut you like a blade. It's insane. Now, in the beginning of this book, Lachlan and her are neighbors. She lives with her girlies in one house, and him and the guys live in the other house. And the friends happen to be, like, all away for a long weekend. And Elena is home and Lachlan is home. I think it's, like, the long weekend before school starts, maybe, is what it is. I don't know, it could be wrong, or it was spring break, I don't know, but either way, they're there early, and Elena is there, and she ends up, like, working on her deck, because the guys who were supposed to build her deck, like, were screwing her over, so she, like, kicked them out, and Lachlan sees her doing this, and he's like, what are you doing? Like, you're gonna hurt yourself, and you're not gonna build a deck. Well, Lachlan, he is actually from a ranch in Wyoming, and he's here in school to get his degree, and he's going to be going back there and helping his father run the ranch. He has a little sister, Cersa, who lives mostly with their mother. So his mother and father are divorced. They had a very messy divorce. These two love each other. His parents loved each other very, very much, but the mother didn't want to give up her career. And the father needed to go back to Wyoming to run his ranch and the family business. And she wanted to stay in politics in California and live her life. And so eventually it forced them to be divorced because they were running into this. And so the kids have kind of been torn between the two of them. And so this has also left Lachlan with, if he doesn't have a woman who can 100% like be with him in that situation and be there for him, he's not interested. So while he's at school in California, he's not looking for anything. He does hookups, but he's also not like a fuckboy. It's not like he's just going out looking for pussy all the time, but he also is like not looking for a relationship. So if you fuck him, that's all you're getting. But he's not like bad about it. You know what I mean? I don't know another way to explain it. But anyway, so Lachlan, the manual labor guy, right? Okay, this is the book, y'all. That is like Beth and Rip type of relationship vibing, okay? Because he puts on his work boots and his stained white t-shirt and starts building this deck. And he's like, I will build this deck if you just stay out of my way and let me do it. And then she's like bringing him like a drink after he's like worked on it or something. And they end up just absolutely attacking each other and having like, not like angry sex, but they just have this like wild thing. Now, Elena, which we see from the prologue in here, she has some sexual trauma. I won't like spoil how or what, but it's left her feeling very like empty, and she hasn't been able to orgasm since that happened to her. She's had sex with people, but she's mostly faked it. With Lachlan, she doesn't even a chance to fake it. He just shoots her off like a rocket, okay? It's pretty hot, okay? It's pretty hot. Let's not talk about how things can be so instantly fixed, but I also think there's a bit of a psychology behind it because she's so not expecting it. Like, she thinks he's hot and she wants to, like, kiss him and touch him and is then like, well, he can just have sex with me to get to that. She's not expecting him to just, like, get her there. So they have this one-night stand, and he goes back over, and she's just left there like, this man just rocked my world, and he just doesn't know. And so she wants to keep having sex with him because she's like, this man is my ticket to pleasure, like, let's go. But Lachlan doesn't want anything past this weekend because he's like, I don't want our friends to know about this, and this can't go more than this. I'm not being serious with anyone. However, he now can't stay away from her. They see each other everywhere. They're neighbors. And though he like rejected her, he can't seem to leave her alone. And keeps being there and ends up taking care of her in different times. And pretty soon they do like develop something. Now this road with here, like Lachlan, he can be a frustrating man, you know, and he's dealing with a woman who has been broken in so many ways, and she protects herself with lots of spiky quills. He calls her his ice queen. He calls her Elsa because of her long blonde hair. But the amount of little care things that he does. When Julia Wolf decides to give us a caring hero like this, I just can't with it, you guys. I just can't with it, okay? Like, there's someone who puts gum in her hair, and he sits her down in front of him and diligently gets it out of her hair. He just wants to take care of her, but he's having trouble reconciling that with the oaths that he's made to himself to not get involved with someone. So that can be annoying in some aspects, if for the fact that, one, Elena, like, refuses to let him do that with her. So if he needs to put up or shut up, because she's like, I'm not going to be jacked around by someone. And also his grovel is good. It's a good one. So yeah, that was a 6-star read from 2022 for me. So loved it. Then the final book in the series was Real Like Daydreams. And this one is about Amir's friend, actually, and roommate. And he was his roommate until a certain time, and then like it's not working to be there because Julian got very hurt. He got actually hit by a car. There was a situation with one of the drug dealers and things went bad, and Julian took the hit, basically. Saved his friend. And so Amir feels very like indebted to him, and Julian kind of hates himself a little. His leg is messed up, he's scarred, he's very depressed, and it's difficult for him to like move on from what's going on. He's struggling in physical therapy and all this stuff. So the other heroine in this is Serafina, and she is in the band, and she's a I think she's a drummer, but in like pep band and like marching band and stuff like that, I believe. And she ends up, basically like these two end up in a fake dating situation. She needs a fake boyfriend for reasons, and she tells that to him. And he needs help with his physical therapy, and she actually has taken like classes on that and everything. So he's like, I'll be your fake boyfriend in exchange for you helping me with this, because I'm really struggling with my like physical therapy and everything. So they end up having a like exchange, and then eventually like sex comes into it as well. There's like some sex deals as well. But yeah, I liked this one a lot too. I gave it 5 stars. Okay. Then we have Savage Academy. So this, now we go back to high school, but now we are in the rich part of town, and we are at a private like prep school. So that's why I said Savage Crew was the public school, Savage U was the college, and Savage Academy, we're back to high school, but it is like the fancy one in town. So Save One Thing is the first book in this series, and this one is Beckett, who is Julian's younger brother, and Luciana, who is Helen's younger brother. So those are both characters from Savage U. And in this one, this is, you know, another dark high school. He's not quite a bully though, at all. And this is a boy obsessed and like biding his time. So this is actually more of like a friends to lovers. And he's been waiting for his chance with her for a long time, because they've been like connected through like their siblings, because their siblings are friends and they've been around as well. And this has been like a few years after Savage U, because I believe that like their siblings have like married their partners already, I think. So it's a few years past that. Because yeah, Luciana and Beckett are like 13 or 14 in that series, I think. And now they're 18 and they're in high school. And it's also a double virgins romance. So yeah, this is a slow burn, friends to lovers. I think he's a soccer player. She picked some unique sports, because we're going to get into another one, but yeah, I really liked that. Then there was These Two Words, and this is currently this is the second one in the series and the last one that's out in this world currently. So this is Reese and Delilah. And this one is like difficult to explain, but I really liked this one. So this one is Reese and Delilah, Reese's roommate and Delilah's friend or twin sister. She has a twin sister. Like Reese's roommate wants to get with Delilah's twin, and Delilah thinks that that dude is bad news, which he is. He's a fuckboy. He's bad. And he pays Reese to keep Delilah busy. Now, Delilah doesn't really care for Reese because he's kind of stoic, and when he does open his mouth, he's kind of a jackass. So she's not really like interested in him at all. But he ends up keeping her busy, and they have a one-night stand. And it's bad. It's bad. He gets off in like a minute. She doesn't even get close. And then he doesn't even try to like get her off after. And I kind of like this because, one, they are teenagers. How much sex have they actually had? This is something that never gets mentioned enough. And trust Julia Wolf to bring out the realness of the situation. Because even if you are the biggest fuckboy ever, how much sex have you really had at 18? And he's just had no one call him out on how he's not pleasing his women. So when she like sneaks out afterwards and like doesn't care, because he thought she was banging, obviously he came in like a minute, he wants to do it again. And also, again, he's supposed to keep her busy, so he's like, well, maybe we could be like fuck buddies, and that's how I'll keep her busy. She's like not interested, and he's like, wait, what? And so he finally gets her to admit why. She's like, you weren't good, and you didn't care about how I got off. You just let it go, and so I'm not interested in doing it again. No thanks. And he's like, okay, but like, can you show me? He earnestly, instead of getting offended, he earnestly is like, how can I improve? And would you help me? So this becomes like a teach me romance, but it's like her teaching him how to be better at sex. And they also like experiment with each other with things too, which I really love. They like try a lot of new things together and everything. So yeah. So this one I also believe involves the fencing teams, I think, is how this one goes. But I knew it was super unique. So yeah, also a plus size heroine. He falls first. All the good stuff. So those are currently all the books that are out. And soon this year, because this Savage Academy is the one we'll be getting the next book from. We'll get that before we get the next Julia Wolf. And so the next one is supposed to be Jump on 3. And this one says it's Ivan and Evelyn. And I think I remember who Ivan is. And I'm pretty excited about this pairing. So yeah, that is currently all the titles by Julia Wolf and J. Wolf, and you know, the ones I've read and the ones I haven't. So like I said, I'll have links to all of her sites and socials. A few of my favorite books will be there with commission links. So definitely go check her out. Send her some love. Let's get some of her books popping. Keep them going. I mean, P.S. You're Intolerable did amazing for a release for her, and I'm just so happy that it did. So let's keep the good times going. So thank you so much for watching this. Julia, if you happen to watch this video, thank you so much for the stories you've told. They've meant so much to me. I will continue to share them with my readers for years and years to come. So thanks so much for watching, friends, and we'll see you next time. Bye.